Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beatrice and my partner's name is Andrew. We are here to talk about leaders' behavior as highlighted by the behavioral approach. Let's give an example. Imagine two college classrooms on the first day of class and two professors with entirely different styles. Professor Smith comes to the class, introduces herself, takes attendance, goes over the syllabus, explains the first assignment, and dismisses the class. Professor Jones, on the other hand, comes to class B and after introducing himself and handing over the syllabus, tries to help the students to get to know one another by having each of students describe a little bit about themselves, their majors, and their favorite non-academic activity. The leadership behaviors of Professor Smith and Jones are quite different. And this is why it is important for us to study the behavioral approach and leadership styles. The behavioral approach focuses solely on the actions and behaviors of leaders, and it's composed of the task behaviors and relationship behaviors. While task behaviors assist team members in achieving goals, people who are task-oriented are doers, and task leadership characteristics support the achievement of goals. On the other hand, relationship behaviors aid followers in feeling at ease with each other, with themselves, and with their surroundings. Relationship-oriented individuals are less goal-oriented, and their leadership styles is directed towards forming connections with others. The behavioral approach's main goal is to clarify how leaders mix these two types of actions to affect followers' efforts to accomplish set goals. To learn more about this approach, numerous studies have been done. The Ohio State researchers adopted the Leader Behavior Description Questionnaire, popularly known as the LBDQ, to examine leaders' behaviors in terms of the initiating and consideration structure. Initiating behaviors are task behaviors such as arranging work, giving structure to work context, establishing role responsibilities, and scheduling work activities, while consideration behavior are the relationship behaviors, which include building togetherness, respect, trust, and like between leaders and followers. The University of Michigan researchers emphasized on how behaviors of leaders affected the performance of small groups. And the two kinds of leadership behaviors that were identified in these studies are the employee orientation and production orientation. While the employee orientation deals with actions of leaders who approach their followers with a strong human relations, the production orientation refers to leadership techniques that place emphasis on jobs' technical and production requirements. At the end of the study, the two behaviors were treated as independent orientations, and it was found that leaders are seen as being able to be oriented towards both production and employees at the same time. Blake and Martin came up with a leadership style grid, which explains how the behaviors of leaders are closely related to the concepts and conclusions that came out of the investigations conducted at the Ohio State University and Michigan University. The grid was created to clarify concern for both production and people, which helps leaders assist organizations in achieving their goals. 5 leadership styles were identified by Blake and Martin, and the first one is the authority compliance, which is also known as dictatorial management, the 9-1 style. It places strong focus on the requirements of task and job requirements, and less emphasis on people. The country club management style, popularly known as the 1-9 style, has great concern for interpersonal relationships while having little regard to task completion, as it's indicated on the grid above. The impoverished management style, popularly known as the 1-1 leadership style, is unconcerned with both the task and interpersonal relationships. The leader goes through the notion that he is uninvolved and withdrawn. The middle of the road or status quo management is the 5-5 style, in which leaders who show a balance between their concerns for task and the people that perform the task. Finally, the team or sound management is the 9-9 style, which places a strong emphasis on both task and interpersonal relationship. Furthermore, Blake and Martin identified paternism and mechanism leadership and opportunism to be incorporated in different types of leadership grid. The paternism leader uses the 1-9 and 9-1 leadership styles because we believe this type of leaders are benevolent dictator who act graciously but does it for the purpose of accomplishing personal goals. The opportunism leadership style combines all the 5 styles of leadership for the purpose of personal growth advancement and adapting, changing their leadership style for their own benefits. We could all discuss the strengths of this approach. It broadened the scope of leadership research to include behavior of leaders. It also provided concepts that could easily be understood. And the behavioral approach have ascertained that the key to being an effective leader often rests on how the leader balances the two behaviors of task and relationship. And lastly, this approach is heuristic. It provides us with a broad conceptual map that is worthwhile to use in our attempts to understand the complexities of leadership. The weaknesses of this approach is that it has been unable to identify the universal behaviors that are associated with effective leadership. Then, the perceptions of leadership may differ from actual leadership behavior because followers tend to take biased decisions while filling the questionnaires. Thirdly, the researchers have not been able to establish a consistent link between the task and relationship behaviors and the outcomes such as morals and job satisfaction and production. This approach was studied based on US-centric perspective, so it might not be compatible to every other part of the world with different cultural orientations. Behavioral approach is applied widely across every organization, and managers can examine their own behaviors to determine how they are perceived by others and how they might modify their productivity. This approach is used as a model by many training development business to teach managers how to increase their effectiveness and organizational efficiency. In conclusion, the behavioral approach to leadership is remarkably different from the trait and skill approaches to leadership because it places more emphasis on what leaders do. Positively, the approach is reliable, valuable, and heuristic. The bad side, the research is United States centric and has not been able to link leadership behaviors to moral, work satisfaction, and productivity. Generally, the behavioral approach is a practical tool for assessing leadership and serves as a reminder to leaders of the influence of their actions. Thank you for listening to this presentation.